Anyway, I'm just following what Carlos Panalto is doing on Falco Cyclic repository to improve the relation with Sigstore, with cosine, and remove the circle CI mess.
Yes, and I think that's the most important thing that's happening right now, because that is really the blueprint of how we want to do this for all the repositories. So perhaps I'm not sure. Well, we have been working together alongside Max as well. So I am not sure if. Basically, if Thomas, you probably have all the details. I have some of the details, and I think I got everything. But if we want to recap about what will be happening to Falco Sidekick, and what are the things that we can expect out of that repo, that would be awesome, so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page on this specific topic. And then I can add some details, and I can add some conversation that we had together, and where we want to go there.
Sure. I have some, basically I have the big picture, of course. I think some details. I missed some details, especially because I was in KCD France last 3 days. So I understood what you are trying to do. I'm receiving all PR notifications, so I know what's happening. But if you have more details about what will be the next steps, I discussed with Carlos Panato, and I would like to remove the make file, for example. But already everybody knows I hate make file.
I do too, actually, but I mean, I've seen at some point in test infra there is a work of make files with called bash, with called make files, with called some other bash, and I was kind of both mesmerized and horrified by it. But I know that Max is a magician at that. So yeah, I understand, and you. I see that you and developer guy are proponents of Mage instead. I don't know if that does anything for security or in general for integrity of the build process, or is that just a different effort?
Why I like Mage, for example, basically it's Go project. It's a Go language, so we can run tests over the Mage file. We can also create some modules and re-import them into other repositories. It's more readable and debuggable than the make file. So this is why I like Mage. There are also other solutions, but as a Go developer, it's easier to make everything works in Go. Basically, this is why I like Mage.
Yeah. So so for the Go project, it makes sense. This thing that we've been working with Carlos, for people that weren't involved, is essentially twofold. One was to move away the Falco Sidekick repository from CircleCI and move it to GitHub Action, which is something that the entire team is committed to doing in every repository. I believe Max is being involved in this effort, or at least knows about that with the other folks that are working on the infrastructure. And then we want to add, and then Carlos is just a PR out to add two things. One is the, let's say, multiple, I believe, because I've seen the signature. There may be the SBOM already in there, and also the provenance, the SALSA provenance attestation, which is the first time we mentioned this in this group. And I'm not an expert in that, but I've now I'm now kind of understanding what it means. And that one does it with hey, Curtis. Right.
Hello,
and the provenance attestation pretty much does, if I understood correctly, essentially says how this specific image has been built. And I believe this works for container images. So at the time when you build the Docker or a container image, it will record the steps that existed, and this is going to be signed together with the image. And of course, for GitHub Actions, I'm happy that we are moving to that, because in terms of security, it makes things better, because the Circle CI currently has permission to do whatever it wants. And with GitHub Actions, we are creating all the scoped permissions that allow specific repositories and specific branches and specific tags to do only some action. For example, the branch that exists in Falco Sidekick is going to the main, that is master branch, and the tags for releases are allowed to push to ECR, and that's it. PRs are not allowed to do anything, and even those branches are not allowed to access any other part of the AWS account. So that is a big step of improvement for the CI, for our own CI security, at least.
Are we doing some, I don't know is the exact term for GitHub Actions, but we can create workflows and import them in another workflow. So are we planning to create common workflows for all Go projects we have and just import the GitHub Actions reference in each repository? You see what I mean? I don't have the exact name.
There's two things there. One is reusable workflows, and the other is one is reusable workflows, and the other is actually GitHub Actions. So you can do two things. Although it's not a very lightweight process, especially for reusable workflows, because those are kind of separate respect to the regular workflow. So what happens is that if you want to share stuff between workflows, it's a bit complicated. So I think for now we didn't have the need to do any of that, because especially if you use something like you mentioned. Well, we used make, and then you've got made files, and you've got automatic build. The build step itself is not big. The other steps, I am not sure if they can be, let's say, put together and made common, but I'm not completely convinced, because after the build, you have to do a bunch of other things. So I'm not sure if GitHub Actions, the reusable workflow, would be an overkill in that situation, or would provide us some use.
It was just to standardize the way we run the CI for each Go project, Falco, Sidekick, UI, and so.
I think that's something that we can look into if it makes our life easier, because if you want to create a reusable workflow, you have to have yet another repository that has the workflow and then link to it. Or maybe we want a custom action for something, and the custom action is just a step. It's just like in the build step, you get your action that does whatever you want. But I don't think it's well. Perhaps you can take a look if other Go projects use this reusable workflow feature, to take a look at an example. Maybe it can help us. Otherwise, since it's a few common steps, a simple copy paste would be enough.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. As long as we drop out make file, I'm happy.
We completely agree on this one. Maybe Max not that much, but we do. And in addition, the other thing that also about the issues and projects, I have already created an issue. I have created an issue today for the stuff that we just discussed. So moving our images to signatures, and along with the example of Falco Sidekick. I was saying Falco Automa, but Falco Sidekick. So. And feel free to add issues there. I've used the evolution repo because I think it's the place that makes most sense at this point. Thanks to Max for making the suggestion. If the issues become too many, we can start having our own. And if the other maintainers will come complaining, we can move them out. And also, there's a GitHub project instance already configured for that. I don't know if you'll be able to edit, modify, just try to play around with it and see if you don't have permissions, and we can set everything correctly.
Okay.
In addition, there is another thing that I wanted to discuss regarding this whole supply chain security topic, and I wanted to collect ideas at least from you about that. So, well, in terms of next steps on the signing, I think we have to move in the same way with the other repo. Falco Sidekick is opening that, and I'll be trying to get Carlos also to speak to us in one of these calls. But he's also we are talking with him a bit more, so that he can provide more context. And the other things that I wanted to mention here is if anyone has thought about the problem of the vulnerabilities in the base image. So if you've ever tried to run a software composition analysis scanning tool or the Falco image, you will see hundreds, if not, of vulnerabilities. I have lots of opinions on that. Thomas, I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, just basically for the Go project, we can remove the from image we use currently and just use the ko, I don't know how to pronounce that, which creates really small, but basically it embeds the Go binary inside the Docker image and you don't have anything else. So the scope for vulnerabilities is really small. And like you said, we discussed with ShaneGuard about Falco. This my first opinion was about the Go project. I would like to remove the Alpine from image for Falco Sidekick and remove it for ko. So it will create basically just a Go binary running in a Docker. And for much complicated images like Falco, we discussed with ShaneGuard, Pop and there, and they would like to help us to integrate Falco to create an image for Falco with their Wolfie image. I don't know if you know what Wolfie is, but basically Wolfie is, they call that an undistro. It's not a distribution because you don't embed all stuff that creates real Linux distributions. It's an image as minimal as possible to avoid any unsolicited package or unsolicited applications inside and reduce the scope of vulnerability. Does it make sense?
Yes, I have questions and remarks on both points. For your projects, we can use ko. Ko basically, as we had a developer guy a couple of weeks back that made the demo of ko. That was cool.
Exactly.
So my question is, for Falco Sidekick, I'm pretty sure that it'd be great to have a ko-based image because it's a server process. My concern is Falco CTL, because Falco CTL is a Go application and it would be perfectly suitable for ko. But sometimes, from time to time, you might want to use that interactively, even in the container, just for your own convenience. So you download the image and you use it interactively inside your container. This is not what happens in production when you run Falco CTL to do your rules update or anything else. But you might want to do it from time to time. And it might be that with ko, you lose that ability to just run something in a container because you don't have even a minimalistic shell. Or do you have a minimalistic shell in there or something that if you want, you can add?
I totally understand and I totally agree. But we have two. It's true for Falco CTL, it can run under daemon either. I was because for Falco Sidekick or Sidekick UI, basically they have daemons, so they are working all every time, and you reach them through HTTP requests. So if you have some vulnerabilities, you can use them to gain a shell, an access to a shell, or create an exploit. I agree. For Falco CTL, we have two use cases. The first one is running it in interactive mode locally. So even if we may face some vulnerabilities inside Falco CTL or inside the Docker image, the exploitability is much smaller because it's not running as a daemon open to the wide web. And for Falco CTL running as a sidecar, so as a daemon, maybe as the interactions part is useless, we could have an image created with co for this specific aspect. So both are legit, but it depends the use case you have.
I actually like this idea. I like the idea of having the Falco sidekick, Falco CTL image, for example, that runs in production, or having one possible Falco CTL image that is built with co. So basically, I would expect that container image to be the equivalent of the good old Scratch that you'd use. So basically, you have a very minimalistic set of things around it, mainly the CA files like that allow TLS connections to happen, this kind of stuff, and your Go binary. So basically, you have this minimalistic image, and also have a little bit of a bigger image that you can use, maybe based on Debian or Ubuntu or whatever we have right now. I don't remember. That you can use in that way, and those can be the two tags for the same release. So exactly. You get Falco CTL 10.2 and Falco CTL 10.2 dash Debian or something like that. So that makes a lot of sense. The other part of the question is the other part of the discussion is that for Falco.
Yeah.
That gets harder because the problem, the massive issue that we have is the fact that we bring along a ton of compilers that allow you to compile, at least it's in a best effort way, allow you to compile your Falco drivers in your machine in case you are running a kernel that's not already automatically built. We build for hundreds of kernels, but there's always that kernel that doesn't build, or maybe it just came out and so it's not yet in the pre-build. So of course, this is going to get better with the modern eBPF probe, because that one doesn't require all that stuff. So that's one of the main selling points of the modern eBPF probe, but that one is only available on newer systems, so we can't just drop the rest. We could make an image that only has that, but maybe it's a bit premature for that. So in that case, what could we potentially do to remove all those compilers compiled in those legacy ways? One thing that I can think of is to have images, Falco images, that could be based on a minimalistic distribution, that inside of them have only maybe 2 versions of compilers, and have the option, and this is actually up for debate on security because it could be terrible for security, have the option to dynamically download a version of a compiler, or actually even a tiny container to run inside itself if the user really wants to build the drivers. So basically, for the first part of the problem, I am inclined to move towards removing the super old compilers that are dragging us, that are making the image bloated. I don't know how much they're used today, and they create a lot of CV of vulnerabilities for nothing. And on the other end, I'm still not sure what to provide in case the user wants to do that. Yes, come on.
I agree we could provide different flavors of images, small, big, with. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought we also had in the idea to maybe integrate with Falco CTL checks and wrapper for the compilations of drivers. So if we embed all these complicated parts with the Falco CTL image, that will run as an init container. So it will build everything, create everything, inject everything in the kernel, the bprefab or the module. At the end, after we have a Falco image much more smaller, without this bloated stuff for the drivers and everything, because everything has been made with another container, Falco CTL, and just before. I thought we wanted to have up this. We have that with Falco CTL. For example, I did some tests with Falco CTL to replace the driver loader in bash script in the Falco image. So with Falco CTL, I was able to check if the local kernel for Falco is ready for Falco or not by checking if in our pre-built drivers S3 bucket the drivers is already there. The driver is already there or not. I did some tests for that, and I was able to just replace this bash script in the Falco image by Falco CTL. So I think we could move forward and have a real CLI tool or daemon tool like to manage all aspects of the life cycle of Falco, from the installation checks, installations of drivers, building of drivers if they are not available, injection in the kernel, and then downloading of the plugins, downloading of the rules, reload of Falcos if the rules change, etc., and so on. I thought that was what we are trying to do with Falco CTL. It's a challenge because it will become a critical part, especially for the user experience. But that was what I had in mind, basically.
Yeah. So on the first part, I forgot to mention it, and you did well to mention it. The fact that indeed I'm talking about the init container. So the actual Falco container, the one that is now the slim version that we run, the one that is executed, that is a great candidate for a minimalistic image, and I fully agree on that. And doesn't actually, that's great, because the only actual dependency that we have there is a glibc compliant environment that is modern enough to, well, we build our Falco with a very old toolchain or parts of the toolchain that are old in such a way that our glibc compatibility is very high. So you can actually run that binary even on a CentOS 7 or perhaps even earlier with very old versions of the libraries, and it works fine with new versions as well. So a minimalistic image such as the one that you mentioned, Wolfie, could be a great solution for that. For the other, I agree that one thing that we all want to do is to move away from that bash script, and the Falco CTL is a candidate. I agree with that, is a candidate for this stuff. Although I'm still not sure where to put all the compilers that you might want, and I hate the fact that the more compilers that we put in, the bigger and more bloated of an image that we'll have. On one side, I was experimenting with the idea of having a kind of a very tiny container, quote unquote, container engine that's able to, if you are on a new distribution that it doesn't know about, but maybe it knows how to handle that distribution, like Fedora or Ubuntu, it will actually start downloading everything that it needs, compile the driver, and then discarding all the files. So that, of course, happens in the init container before any untrusted data is allowed to get there. So from a security standpoint, it's not terrible, but the problem is that it's not great as well, because downloading and executing stuff at runtime is something that, from a security standpoint, is never great. So, and unless it's super verified, and of course we do trust the images that the container images and the compilers that the official Ubuntu, Red Hat, Fedora distributions create for us, but on the other hand, in case those get compromised, then a Falco image that's not supposed to be doing anything bad will start doing very bad stuff. So I'm still on the fence on that idea. Also, a question, I don't know, but I heard the name Wolfie before. Does that support ARM? Because we also have ARM binaries. And
I think so. And to be honest, I discussed with Bob about that, and I told him we don't have a lot of time to take on that specific topic. We are working on supply chain security. It's the purpose of that working group, but I don't know if we will have a lot of time to make Falco running correctly with Wolfie, with their Wolfie image. He told me he wants to, he loves Falco, so he wants to make his engineers to work on that topic with us. So we have their support and their help to make Falco running in with Wolfie. Maybe it's not possible, I don't know, but at least will not be by our own alone. We will have some help from ChainGuard directly.
I would love that, actually. I was toying with that idea because for those who don't know, I'm more expert than I would like to be on software composition analysis tool. And I know for a fact that in Falco, an SCA tool is completely useless and generates a ton of noise. But the only way to remove that noise is to remove all the sources of noise. So yeah. We are there, and well, at the end of the day, a smaller image is a better image for consumers, so for users. So at the end of the day, also there are some advantages in terms of everything. In terms of security itself, not having all those binaries around is cool, but as a security person, I know that even an image that doesn't have any binary can still be exploited in all ways. Yeah, sure, but you can still do it. So, but yes, I will write that. I already am in contact with people from ChainGuard, as you mentioned, and also Carlos as well. And also, they're trying to figure out if there's someone that has a bit of time that can dedicate to us to help us in this matter.
Let's continue discussion with Bob with that, and I'm sure we'll find someone to help us. Sure.
Okay, very cool. For the code discussion that we had before, I think if you all agree, it would be good to create another tracking issue on the evolution repository to get this discussion there. So that, because before we had one issue in the Falco scale repository, and maybe there's one in the Sidekick repository, so we can have one that tracks them all. So we are sure to how to proceed and to proceed in kind of a consistent way, if you all agree.
I have a bunch of Go projects on my own, so I will try.
Okay.
I tried Go only once with the developer guy, to be honest. He introduced me to that 2 years ago, I think. So I will try it myself in Falco Talon or Falco Sidekick. We'll see. But right now, Falco Sidekick and Falco Sidekick UI are based on Alpine without anything else. And they are created with multi-stages. So at the end, we only have one Alpine and a Go binary. So they are not subject to a lot of vulnerabilities because we don't have anything inside. We don't have even a shell, I think. So
very cool. I don't have other things to add. So I see that we have a new person here. We've got Curtis. Are you listening, and would you like to introduce yourself, perhaps, since you are new to this group, or maybe to the Falco community, if you're around?
Yeah, my name's Curtis Filardi. I've been using the Falco open source for quite some time. When I was in the pharmaceutical industry at Roche, we'd actually deployed Sysdig Enterprise, which is the enterprise version of Falco. But yeah, just getting involved, and yeah, I love working with it. It's definitely a hobby, and yeah, it's a great tool. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Curtis. And it's cool to know that even big infrastructures run Falco. Everything runs Falco. One day, the old millions of devices run Java. And I know that millions of devices run Falco. I'm very happy about it. Also a little bit scared because I know what my bugs can create, but we have a ton of testing, so I'm now a bit more reassured by that. Yeah, of course, enterprise Falco versions are still Falco at the end of the day, with more features, but well, other features technically, so like software composition analysis and all that. But yeah, the core Falco is still there, and we are actually working every day to make it better and more secure. Being a security person myself, I really want to see Falco shine in terms of security itself, because it is a security tool after all, and it's I think the security tools themselves are the hardest to secure, so that's why we are thinking about it. We are trying to get initiatives going, and we're trying to get legacy stuff out. Thanks for joining anyways.
And I just want to touch, I'm definitely interested in the Falco CTL conversation, as I'm deploying the last 2 years Falco on Kubernetes, and just mounting the your rules files via config maps. It's kind of a little tricky to get people across, but yeah, having one unified tool to instead of Helm charts and bash scripts, or as wrappers, to kind of load, install the modules, and then load up the rules and manage the rules is quite like a little barrier of entry. So yeah, I think this is a great conversation.
Yeah, Falco CTL is something that has existed for a long time, but only recently is getting features, and getting rules automatically was one of the big pain points that we have. Now we have made the conscious decision of using OCI artifacts for rules. On one side, it's a bit clunky because you have to manage them like containers, you have to upload them to registries and so forth. But on the other, it creates opportunities in terms that, for example, when we think about security, in one of the goals of this working group is to get signatures going. And since we now can get signatures for well, the thing is, it's developing, and the OCI consortium, well, the OCI specifications and the people working on the specifications are working towards getting security signatures and everything as built in OCI. And so we want to get that built in as well, because everything that you download and you run in your cluster should be also verified and should be good to go. Also, thanks for playing with it. If you have questions, of course, we're always in the Falco channel, and we're around. Everyone that has worked on Falco CTL and is working on Falco is around there, and we're happy to answer questions. The tool is very new. We have been using that ourselves, and it works. It can update with our rules update as well, because one other pain point. Cool. So thanks a lot. One other pain point was the fact that if there is a new CVE, we had no way to update the rules, so you can do that now, which is kind of a normal feature for rules. So thanks a lot.
And with Vicente, we wrote a blog post about the basic usages of Falco CTL 2 weeks ago, I think. And we are working on a new blog post to explain how to create a private registry.
And also public ones. I think
yeah, exactly. This is our next step. But Vicente is always in PTO. Explain me that. He's always off. But I'm trolling, but we will work on that, and you to have public registries in GitLab or GitHub.
I think at some point Vicente said, "Oh, I did not take a lot of PTO, and maybe I should take more." I think he's doing that.
The 9th of March, he already took 4 weeks of PTO since the 1st of January.
And maybe he worked over Christmas when everyone was, offline. He was just there doing his work, and then PTO later. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, everyone. If there's thank you so much. If there's no further topics, I think we can call it today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for the discussions. I will write down the stuff in the notes in our document, and feel free to ask questions about either Falco or everything in the channel, or just say hi, or even in our supply chain security working group channel that is written in the in Slack on the top of the document, and you can find it on the CNCF Slack. Thank you. Have a good evening or day, wherever you're based. Bye.
Thank you, Luca.
Bye.